The hushed grandeur of the hotel suite in New York offered a paradoxical sense of calm amidst the storm it was meant to address. The walls, paneled in a sophisticated neutral gray, absorbed the morning light, lending an air of gravitas to the impending discussions. At the heart of the room, a polished wooden table, elegantly curved, bore a vibrant centerpiece of white hydrangeas and green foliage, flanked by 2 glasses of water, crystal clear and untouched. The only splash of vivid color came from the proudly standing national flag of Bangladesh, its red disk stark against the deep green, a silent, potent symbol of a nation burdened by an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. In this setting, UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi settled into a plush, dark leather armchair. His posture was attentive, a slight forward lean indicating his readiness for the weighty conversation ahead. Dressed impeccably in a dark suit, a patterned tie a subtle accent, his silver hair neatly combed, Grandi's expression was one of seasoned determination. Across from him, Professor Mohammed Yunus, chief advisor, offered a contrasting, yet equally formidable presence. His white hair framed a face etched with decades of tireless advocacy. His eyes, though thoughtful, held a glint of resolve. He wore a traditional, light-colored check-patterned kurta, topped with a plain off-white vest, exuding an air of quiet authority and dignified resilience. Both men, seated in their respective armchairs, embodied different facets of the global effort to confront one of humanity's most pressing challenges. The purpose of their Monday morning meeting, held just ahead of a pivotal high-level international conference at the United Nations headquarters, was singular and urgent: the Rohingya crisis. The air in the room, though calm, vibrated with unspoken concerns, with the plight of over 1 million displaced souls weighing heavily on their shoulders. Grandi opened the discussion, his voice measured but imbued with deep concern, outlining the rapidly worsening humanitarian conditions in Myanmar's Rakhine state. He painted a grim picture, detailing the systematic marginalization, violence, and deprivation that continued to drive the Rohingya people from their ancestral lands. The stories he recounted, of villages burned and lives shattered, were not mere statistics, but echoes of profound human suffering. Professor Yunus, listening intently, nodded gravely. He then shifted the focus to the dire situation in Bangladesh, a nation that had, out of humanitarian imperative, absorbed the brunt of the exodus. He spoke of the recent, alarming cuts in international aid, a blow that had reverberated through the vast, sprawling refugee camps in Cox's Bazar. "The impact of these cuts, Commissioner, has been immediate and devastating," Yunus stated, his voice softening with empathy. For over 1 million refugees, already living on the precipice, reduced rations mean hunger, increased vulnerability, and a deepening despair. It jeopardizes their health, their safety, and their future. He emphasized that the situation had been further exacerbated by the influx of approximately 150,000 Rohingya over the past 18 months, pushing the limits of Bangladesh's already stretched resources and threatening to destabilize regional tensions. Their discussion then naturally segued into the labyrinthine diplomatic efforts underway, a complex web of negotiations aimed at securing the voluntary, safe, and dignified return of the Rohingya to their homeland. Grandi reiterated UNHCR's commitment to these principles, stressing that any return must be predicated on guarantees of safety, human rights, and a sustainable future. "Forced returns are simply not an option," he affirmed, "nor are returns to conditions that mirror the very persecution they fled." Chief Advisor Yunus, however, expressed a cautious but firm optimism regarding the upcoming international conference. "We hold strong hopes, Commissioner," he said, his gaze fixed on Grandi, "that tomorrow's landmark international conference, the first of its kind focused solely on the Rohingya, will not merely lament the crisis but produce a clear, actionable roadmap for its resolution." He underscored the critical need for global solidarity, adding that the event was expected to galvanize international support, particularly in mobilizing much-needed funding for the over 1 million Rohingya refugees currently residing in Bangladesh. The financial shortfall, he stressed, was not just an administrative problem, but a direct threat to human lives. Grandi, in turn, offered praise for Bangladesh's efforts, particularly the regional conference held last month in Cox's Bazar. He specifically commended the innovative inclusion of Rohingya community leaders, who, for the first time, actively participated in the 4-day deliberations. "That, Professor, was a crucial step," Grandi noted. "Giving a voice to the community, allowing them to articulate their needs and aspirations, is fundamental to any lasting solution." He then gently encouraged Bangladesh to intensify its diplomatic outreach, particularly with major global powers, to help forge a durable and sustainable solution to the crisis, emphasizing that a multilateral approach was paramount. As their initial conversation concluded, Dr. Khalilur Rahman, National Security Advisor to the Chief Advisor, joined the meeting. His presence added a layer of practical detail to the high-level discussions. Dr. Rahman provided the UNHCR chief with an update on the painstaking verification process of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. To date, approximately 250,000 Rohingya have been verified, he stated, outlining the meticulous procedures involved in documenting each individual, a crucial step for any future repatriation efforts. Later that same Monday, in a slightly different, equally understated meeting space within the same New York hotel, Chief Advisor Yunus held another critical discussion. This time, his interlocutor was Julie Bishop, the former acting Prime Minister of Australia and currently the UN Special Envoy on Myanmar. Bishop, with her sharp intellect and extensive diplomatic experience, was a key figure in the international efforts to address the crisis. Their conversation, too, delved into the broader Rohingya crisis, the persistent instability in Rakhine State, and the severe funding shortfall that continued to plague humanitarian operations supporting Myanmar refugees. They meticulously reviewed the key issues that were expected to dominate Tuesday's high-stakes conference. Professor Yunus, sensing the weight of the moment and the imperative for decisive action, leaned forward slightly, his voice gaining an edge of urgency. The return of the Rohingya people to their homeland, he asserted, his words echoing with conviction, is the only viable solution. There is no alternative. He stressed that while temporary measures were necessary, they could never substitute for a permanent, just resolution. He continued, his gaze unwavering, "Let's hope tomorrow's conference brings forth some meaningful proposals. This is not an issue the world can afford to forget, nor one that can be relegated to the periphery of global consciousness." His words were a poignant reminder of the enduring tragedy and the moral obligation facing the international community. Bishop, acknowledging the profound truth in his statement, emphasized the critical need to diversify funding sources for Rohingya support. She specifically called upon OIC member states to increase their contributions, recognizing the shared cultural and religious ties that could motivate greater engagement from these nations. "The burden cannot fall solely on a few," Bishop stated. "It is a collective responsibility, and we must broaden the base of support." Also present during this vital exchange were Foreign Advisor Tawhid Hossain, NCP leader Tasnim Jara, and SDG Coordinator Lamia Morshed, each contributing their expertise and perspective to the complex diplomatic puzzle. Their presence underscored the comprehensive, multifaceted approach Bangladesh was taking to advocate for the Rohingya. As the meeting drew to a close, a sense of quiet anticipation settled over the room. The stage was set for the following day's landmark conference, a forum where the hopes and fears of a displaced people would be laid bare before the world, with the desperate yearning for a roadmap to home hanging heavy in the New York air.